Robinson was shot 59 times as law enforcement tried to arrest him in 2016. Robinson's mother says she fought for 5 years for charges to be filed and is not done pushing for justice for her son.
The moment Monteria Robinson dialed 911, she believed she was making the safest choice she could make as a mother. Her son was unraveling. His thoughts were distorted. Fear was taking over his mind. She told the dispatcher exactly that. She said he was mentally ill. She said he was paranoid. She said he needed help. She did not say he was a criminal. She did not say he needed to be hunted. And she did not ask for force. What Monteria could not have known was that this single phone call would quietly place her son on a path that ended inside an apartment, with 59 bullets fired by law enforcement officers, and not a single officer injured. For years, officials would say the same thing, that it was self-defense, that officers feared for their lives, that the shooting happened in seconds. But here's where this case refuses to follow the usual script, because 5 years later, something happened that had never happened before in American history. A grand jury reviewed the evidence and charged a U.S. Marshal with felony murder, not because of viral video, not because of public outrage in the moment, but because of what the evidence showed and what it didn't. No body camera footage, nearly 100 rounds fired, pauses between gunfire, downward bullet trajectories, and a young man with schizophrenia dead on the floor. That man was Jamarion Robinson, a college student, a former athlete, and a son whose mother believed help was on the way. This case forces a question that still echoes through courtrooms, police departments, and grieving families across this country. If a man is shot 59 times and no officer is injured and there is no video, at what point does self-defense stop being self-defense? Today, we're breaking down the killing of Jamarion Robinson, the call for help, the escalation, the silence that followed, the protests that refused to fade, and the courtroom battle that finally forced accountability. This isn't just a story about how someone died. It's about what happens when a system built for control is sent to handle a crisis that required care. Welcome to the Crime Anatomy. We uncover the real stories behind the nation's most disturbing cases. If stories like this matter to you, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss an episode.
What the fuck?
Release your hands!
Oh, hell.
Oh,
Really?
police out here shooting folks, y'all, in the
Oh
house.
my God, Jesus Christ. This is fucking crazy.
So they come over here shooting.
Jamarion!
Oh, he got a gun. That's why they shooting at his dumb ass.
Throw the gun down, son, and come out! Throw it down!
What the fuck?
Throw it down! Who are the folks that connected? Police! Come to the door!
Then they got other folks.
Why is you talking so loud?
They can't do shit to us.
And let us come in and get
You don't watch the fucking news, Kiosha?
They can't do
Carry your
nothing
ass.
to
Keep
us.
coming in the house, because you going to get me shot.
Throw it down!
He shooting out with them folk. That boy shooting out with them folk. I'm finna put this on my Instagram. I got the first video. That's crazy. Come on.
Get out of the way! Go inside!
I gotta get from off over here. You hitting his gunshots? Oh my God. You don't hear his gunshots. Oh my God, mama. We looking right, Andy. They don't busting these in our...
They don't want
Why
us.
is he talking to us like that?
I just told your ass they don't give a fuck.
You heard the police? He said, go back inside.
What? What? Y'all see how crazy the 12 is, bro? They out here shooting in this motherfucking apartment complex. In the house. Shooting in the damn house. In the damn house, dog. Look at the fake police over here hiding behind the car. What is...
Before he became a headline, Jamarion Robinson was a son. Born on April 1st, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia, he was the first child of his mother, Monteria Robinson, and the first grandchild in a close-knit, four-generation family rooted in military service and higher education. He was athletic, charismatic, known for his humor and intelligence. In high school at Douglas County High School, Jamarion stood out on the football field, disciplined, fast, and focused. That drive earned him a spot at Clark Atlanta University, where he was recognized as Freshman Player of the Year on the football team. Football wasn't just a game to him, that IT was a future. When his mother lost her job, Jamarion stepped up, temporarily putting his education on hold to help support the family. It wasn't quitting, it was responsibility. By 2016, he was rebuilding that at 26 years old. Jamarion had enrolled at Tuskegee University as a biology major and student athlete. According to his family, he had just texted his mother to say this would be his final semester. He was finishing what he started. There were no violent criminal convictions in his past, only minor traffic violations. This is important because the story that follows depends on who the system thought he was versus who he actually was. In the months leading up to his death, Jamarion began to struggle. He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, a severe mental health condition that can distort reality, fuel fear, and isolate those suffering from it. His mother was suddenly thrust into a role she never expected: caretaker, protector, crisis manager. Family members described changes: pacing, confusion, behavior that didn't match the son they knew. And then came the night that changed everything. Monteria Robinson woke up to the smell of gasoline. She discovered that Jamarion had poured gas inside her home, near his bed, near her room. Afraid, confused, and desperate for help, she did what many parents are told to do. She called 911, not to have her son arrested, not to have him harmed, but to get help. By the time officers arrived, Jamarion had fled the house. What they found instead was gasoline and a shaken family. Law enforcement interpreted this as attempted arson. Monteria Robinson did not. She explained that gasoline was kept for his motorcycle and that she did not believe her son intended to hurt her. But from that moment forward, Jamarion's mental health crisis was no longer treated as a medical emergency. It was treated as a crime. And once that shift happens, the system rarely reverses course. Do you believe police should ever be the default responders to a mental health crisis? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Following the gasoline incident, and another encounter in which Jamarion allegedly pointed or fired a gun toward officers, arrest warrants were issued. Charges included attempted arson and aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer. The language changed. He was no longer a student and no longer a son in crisis. He was labeled a fugitive. The case was escalated beyond local police and handed to the U.S. Marshal Service, which organized the Southeast Regional Fugitive Task Force, a multi-agency unit involving officers from multiple jurisdictions. This task force was designed for high-risk apprehensions, and that decision to treat Jamarion Robinson as a high-risk fugitive would determine everything that followed. On August 5, 2016, just after 2 p.m., members of the task force converged on the Parkside Camp Creek apartments in East Point, Georgia. Jamarion was staying there with his girlfriend. The officers were armed with semi-automatic and automatic weapons, tactical gear, breaching tools. They approached the apartment, announced themselves, and then they forced entry. What happened next is known only through audio recordings captured by neighbors and the physical evidence left behind. According to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, officers issued commands and claimed Jamarion fired at them 2 or 3 times. What followed was a barrage of gunfire, not seconds, minutes. The audio reveals bursts of shots, pauses, then more gunfire, over a span of roughly 3 minutes. Nearly 100 rounds were discharged. No officer was hit. At some point after the shooting slowed, officers deployed a flashbang grenade inside the apartment. Jamarion Robinson was pronounced dead at the scene. The autopsy report would shock the public. Jamarion Robinson was struck by at least 59 bullets. 17 exited his body. The wounds were everywhere. Head, neck, torso, arms, thighs, shins, feet. Some bullets entered through the palms of his hands. Independent experts hired by the family concluded that some shots appeared to have been fired while he was already on the ground. Bullet holes were found in the floor near where his body lay, suggesting downward firing. According to allegations made by the family's investigators, officers handcuffed Jamarion after he was dead, dragged his body down a flight of stairs, and detonated a flashbang grenade inside the apartment. And there is no body camera footage to confirm or deny any of it. Not one officer on that task force was wearing a camera. Jamarion Robinson is dead. But in the days that follow, nothing happens. No arrests, no suspensions, no press conference explaining why 59 bullets were necessary. Instead, the system closes ranks. Investigators announce the officers involved have been placed on administrative leave, a phrase that sounds like accountability, but rarely is. The U.S. Marshal Service releases a short statement. The officers acted in self-defense. No names, no breakdown, no explanation of why a mentally ill college student required a military-style raid. Weeks pass, then months, then years. And for Monteria Robinson, the waiting becomes its own punishment.
They shot at him with automatic weapons, 35, bullet number 42. And this is where he stood at the top of the stairs trying to get away from them. And this is where they killed him. You can see the splatter on the walls. You can see the hand grenades they threw. I'm going this other room.
Monteria Robinson quickly realizes something devastating. If she doesn't speak, no one will. She begins requesting records, incident reports, ballistic data, internal reviews. She is denied repeatedly. So she does what grieving mothers across America are forced to do. She sues. In 2017, the Robinson family files a federal civil rights lawsuit alleging excessive force, wrongful death, and a coordinated cover-up involving local police and federal marshals. Inside the filings are disturbing claims that officers continued firing after Jamarion was incapacitated, that a flashbang grenade was detonated after he was already dead, that officers handcuffed his body, that evidence inside the apartment was altered. The lawsuit doesn't just accuse individuals. It accuses the system itself. And for the first time, the case is no longer buried in internal reviews. It's public record. Silence from officials is met with noise from the community. Protests begin in Atlanta. Handwritten signs, candles, photos of Jamarion in his football uniform, photos of him smiling alive. At rallies, speakers repeat one phrase over and over. Mental illness is not a death sentence. Family members stand before microphones, voices shaking but unbroken. Monteria Robinson speaks directly to cameras. She describes begging police to slow down. She describes telling them her son was sick, not violent. She describes watching his name get reduced to a mugshot instead of a human being. Activists demand body cameras for all federal task forces, independent prosecutors for police killings, mental health crisis responders, and still no criminal charges. This is where many cases die. This one didn't. In 2021, 5 years after Jamarion's death, something unprecedented happens. A Fulton County grand jury returns indictments. 2 officers are charged. Eric Hines, a U.S. Marshal. Christopher Hutchins, a local officer assigned to the task force. The charges are staggering. Felony murder, aggravated assault, violation of oath of office. For the first time in U.S. history, a U.S. Marshal is criminally charged for an on-duty killing. Inside the courtroom, the tone is tense. Defense attorneys argue. Jamarion fired first. Officers feared for their lives. The shooting was chaotic, but justified. Prosecutors push back. They focus on the sheer number of bullets, the lack of body cameras, the downward bullet trajectories, the delay between bursts of gunfire. They ask a question that hangs in the air. At what point does self-defense become execution? Monteria Robinson sits feet away from the men accused of killing her son. She does not look away. Authorities said a handgun was recovered and that Jamarion fired first. The family's lawsuit challenged that claim, alleging the gun was damaged and possibly inoperable. Audio experts retained by the family stated that the recordings did not clearly capture multiple shots from a separate handgun, only the sustained fire from officers. With no video evidence, the truth became fragmented, and for years accountability seemed impossible.
Robinson's mother says she fought for 5 years for charges to be filed and is not done pushing for justice for her son. Joe Hankey talked with her, and Joe, such a long and incredibly painful journey. What's going to be next for her, has she said?
Well, Monteria Robinson tells me an indictment and charges, of course, is a first step, but ultimately she wants to see anyone responsible convicted in court.
Robinson! Robinson!
On the front steps of the Fulton County Courthouse, Jamarion Robinson's mother, Monteria, and supporters shouted his name this afternoon, one day after a Fulton County grand jury indicted 2 law enforcement officers with murder for his death. Monteria Robinson says since 2016, she begged prosecutors to bring her son's case before a grand jury.
I had to fight them like tooth and nail to get here. I have had to make personal sacrifices. I had to leave my job. I couldn't even travel and go to work.
Police officers being charged with felony murder is rare, but it did not surprise Robinson.
Was I expecting it? Yes, I was expecting that charge. You know, the DA did inform me prior to the grand jury, like, these are the charges.
She says, though, an indictment is not the end goal. Robinson is now hoping for a criminal conviction.
You know, we are ecstatic. We are happy. You know, this is one step further in the right direction. As I stated, you know, we can start a new chapter.
Throughout the legal process, the Robinson family speaks directly to the public. In interviews, Monteria repeats one line that becomes central to the case. I call for help. I didn't call for my son to be executed. She appears on local news broadcasts, independent media platforms, community forums. She explains schizophrenia in plain language, not as an excuse, but as context. She reminds viewers, Jamarion was enrolled in college. He had no history of harming strangers. He was surrounded by armed men trained for war, not care. Her advocacy evolves into organization. She launches Justice for Georgia, a database tracking police killings statewide, filling gaps left by official reporting. Grief turns into documentation. Pain turns into record keeping. And the system can no longer pretend this case is isolated. Jamarion Robinson's death exposes systemic failures. Mental illness treated as criminal intent. Militarized tactics used where de-escalation was possible. Task forces operating without transparency or oversight. This case shows why families must document everything. Why crisis response must include mental health professionals. Why body cameras must be mandatory, especially for federal task forces, and why silence only protects failure. Jamarion Robinson was not perfect, but he was alive. He was enrolled in school that he was loved, and he was struggling, not attacking. His death was not inevitable. It was the result of decisions out of escalation, out of a system that chose force over care. If stories like this matter to you, if accountability matters, subscribe, share this video, and keep these names alive. Because this wasn't just a killing. Thanks for watching. This has been the Crime Anatomy.